figured I'd be standing up.
There you go. Okay, let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you giving thanks. Thanks for this opportunity to come and gather together this day. We ask for your hand and blessing on this meeting. We ask that you would guide and direct our meeting so that it is full of wisdom, productivity, and respect for one another. Thank you for helping us to accomplish our work on our goals this day. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Where is the flag?
Pray in the surface
The flag disappeared.
on your desk. All right, next we will have presentations of resolutions. First is the Mosquito Control Awareness Week proclamation. And is Ms. Tammy Brewer here? Okay.
Bring your mosquito spray.
Hi, Ms. Brewer. How are you today? And the proclamation reads, a proclamation honoring the Mosquito Control Awareness Week, June 21st through 27th. And whereas mosquito-borne diseases including malaria, yellow fever, West Nile virus, and dog heartworm has historically been a source of human and animal suffering, illness, and death in the United States and worldwide. And whereas mosquito control workers strive to educate the general public about the significance of mosquitoes in their daily lives and the importance of the participation with their communities' overall mosquito control efforts. And therefore, be proclaimed, we do hereby proclaim June 21st through June 27th, 2015 as Mosquito Control Awareness Week.
I'd like to thank everyone for the proclamation recognizing Mosquito Control Awareness Week. We're hoping to come up with some good activities to promote the awareness to the citizens of Richland County. And we're not exactly sure what we're going to do yet this year. We've done different things over the past several years. But if you ever have a chance to come and visit our program, we hope you'll take the chance to come and visit us and see how we're set up to learn more about mosquito control and vector control in general. Thank you.
Thanks.
Next, we have a proclamation recognizing Ms. McCarty for years of service to Richland County. Mr. Livingston.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How you doing, Leora? It's certainly my pleasure to present this proclamation recognizing Ms. Leora McCarthy. Whereas Ms. Leora McCarthy is a native of Saluda, South Carolina, where she attended and graduated from the public school system of Saluda County. She later attended Columbia Junior College and Midland Technical College. Great school. Whereas Ms. McCarthy began her career with the Richland County Election and Voter Registration Office in 2006 as a member of the Board of Voter Registration. And whereas Ms. McCarthy became the Department Supervisor of Records in 2011, after the office merged, in this role, her department digitized all of the voter registration records and files dating back to 1967. whereas Ms. McCarthy resides in Columbia, South Carolina, with her husband, Mr. Charles W. McCarthy, of 43 years. They are the proud parents of 3 children. Ms. Seba Robinson, just what I was going to say. Cece Irvin and Charles McCarthy. They also have more than 13 grandchildren. And whereas Ms. McCarthy has been a highly dependable lawyer and respectful asset to the Richland County Election and Voter Registration Department. And now, therefore, it be claimed that Richland County Councilman Paul Livingston, District 4, recognized Ms. Leona McCarthy for her service and dedication to the Election and Voter Registration Department and wishes her well as she enters into the journey of retirement. Again, signed by Paul Livingston, Richland County Council District 4, Tori Rush, Chairman, Richland County Council. Thank you so very much for your contribution to our wonderful county.
Thank you.
Best wishes in retirement. Can't see behind that podium there. Thank you. I'm glad to know that you're leaving our department in great hands.
Thank you, Mr. Livingston. Next, we have approval of the minutes, regular session, June 2nd, 2015. Chair, entertain a motion. Got a motion for approval. It's been properly second. Any discussion? All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Adoption of the agenda.
So move.
Got a motion for approval of adoption of the agenda. It's been properly second. Any discussion? All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Report of the attorney for executive session.
Mr. Chairman and members of council, there's one item number 13. To the extent that the council has any questions about that item will qualify for executive session. Don't have anything further, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Mr. Smith. Next, we have citizens' input for items.
I want personal privilege.
Mr. Pierce.
Mr. Beatty, is this group with you?
Yes, sir.
Could you, we rarely have this many young people in a cluster like that. Could you maybe introduce them and tell us why they're here?
Mr. Chairman.
Are you going to do that?
We're going to do that in just a
I
minute.
did it again, I'm sorry. Not on the agenda.
Yes, it is.
Oh, yes it is. Sorry.
That's quite all right, Mr.
This is what happens when we stay here until midnight trying to do a budget. It carries over till the next week. I apologize.
That's all right. Thank you, Mr. Pierce. Citizens' input for items on the agenda not requiring a public hearing. Not requiring a public hearing. All right, we got several citizens signed up to speak. When you come forward, if you can state your name and address for the record. First, I'll call 3 up initially. Peter Palmer, Warren Sherlock, and Helen Bradley. And you have 2 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Peter Palmer, 126 Chapel Creek Lane, Hopkins, South Carolina, 29061. Making notes and stuff I read from the Richland County Image 2020, Preserve the County, Preserve the Environment. I believe it's on page 4-13. I'm not seeing it going on right now from what I'm seeing from interchange between the council and the community. Also like to know what addition y'all going off now as far as the Lower Richland Sanitary Sewer Project or the Image Richland County 2020, so we can educate ourselves so either we can work with you, not against you. As far as the writing in the report, failing septic tanks, it makes it sound like we're Haiti after disaster. I don't see FEMA, I don't see CDC. I'll be honest, if that many septic tanks were failing, it would be sewer in roads, it would be bad smells, and I think a lot of us would be taking up septic tank handling or treatment as a side job just to make extra money. Notice 2 schools are listed. As far as my understanding is they have budgets to handle this. My question is, honestly, you cannot answer, is why isn't the problem being fixed and not just being danced around? If they got the money, fix it. If it can't be fixed, find a solution that will fix it that's more green for the environment. I understand Franklin Park has a similar situation. My question is, why can't DHEC, Richland County, et cetera, get together and work on a project that will not destroy the environment, such as digging up miles and miles of sewage, holes to put sewer pipe down? Also, it doesn't explain to me, I'm great for new development on Garnes Ferry Road, great, welcome it. My question is, why do I have to have a sewer pipe for something that's gonna be 5 miles from my house? I don't see it. Also, the talk about, my fault. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Palmer. Mr. Sherlock.
Evening.
Good evening.
My name's Warren Sherlock. I stay at 255 Dry Branch Way in Hopkins, South Carolina. Zip code 29061. You know, this sewer situation for Hopkins, you know, I spent the better part of my life in the service, serving this country for 30 years to make sure that the freedoms we have will continue. A lot of people died for those freedoms. I was blessed with coming through without losing a limb or being wounded, and I still have a reasonable amount of sense as far as my mind. And it took me a long time before, when I was coming up, about why things were happening to me, all because it was the color of my skin. Being disrespected, not being able to do the things that other people were able to do. And it seems like it's been a plague in my life, and I'm not the only one. We got a man in the White House that's being disrespected for the color of his skin. And I feel like I'm being disrespected by this county council behind this sewer project. Why all of you can't be up front and honest about what's going on and let us know, because we're the ones that are having to deal with this. And I just want to know if any of you stay in Hopkins. We don't want this sewer. Thank you.
And then we'll have Miss Lottie Wesley, Tom Mankey, and Jennifer Mankey.
Good evening. I'm Helen Taylor Bradley. I live at 1916 Martin Luther King Boulevard, Hopkins, South Carolina. I'm coming today again to ask a question that we've asked already. I still have not gotten an answer. We would like to know what is considered as new construction. If my child decides he wants to purchase a mobile home, is that considered new construction? If we add a garage onto our house, is that considered new construction? Is it that every time someone obtains a permit is considered new construction? We need the answers to that question, because it's going to mean something in the long run in the parts that you talk about on the agenda that says it applies to new construction. Tell us what that is. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bradley. Ms. Wesley?
Good evening
Good evening.
again. I'm Lottie P. Wesley. I live at 164 Sumter Loop Road, Hopkins, South Carolina, 29061. Proud. I would like to speak to the council folks also, but I want to speak to some of these young people that are here. Tonight, when you are here, please listen very careful to what is being said and how it's being said. The papers that we have, it's almost like there's a test being done, but you didn't have the book to read it. So it's almost like it's blindfolded. When you start a LM and a PT and a QR, folks don't understand that. And I understand that's a part of your job, in which we may not need to understand it. But it's so much that you're doing, from the past to the present. It's still coming forward. So we need to stop it. We need to go forward, but we need to stop so much of the diddling from the past. It's our lives that y'all have in your hands. And we are the ones that put you where you are. And what we need for you to do is to consider, once this stuff happens, you know how they always say, if it happens, some stuff you can't take back. If this happens, you can't take it back. It's just going to be a problem for us all along. And I don't get it. If I know you got burnt over here and you are so hurt, then I'm going to go and get burnt over here the same way. City of Columbus have such a problem with the sewer. And it's just so hard. It seems like y'all just don't understand what problems that they are having. It seems like you don't care what problems that they're having. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
I'll be
Wesley.
back.
Tom Mackey, 320 Clearview Drive, Hopkins, South Carolina. There's a fairy tale about a king that wanted to carpet the world so that he would not stub his toe as he walked around in it. And one of his subordinates came up with a better idea, to make a pair of shoes for the king rather than carpeting the world. Someone suggested that a sewer system should be installed in a rural district because bacterial seepage has been occurring in the Congaree River, maybe Cedar Creek, from a particular site where there's a septic system that's not installed properly, not functioning properly. And so they want to bring in a sewer system to take care of that problem. My concern, again, with the cost of a sewer system is not just the hookup fees and the maintenance fees. That's a small part in my way of thinking. It's the tremendous shift in how that rural environment is viewed by the developers that come in once the citizens have made that financial installation of the sewer line, and then the developers come in and take away our natural environment. I treasure my connection to that wild nature. A city life is an artificial life. When I die, I want to have lived an actual life. And I would suggest let's fix this sewer system that's causing the problem to Congaree. Let's deal with that. Let's make that sewer system, that particular septic system, work properly. We've already presented to this council a listing of how sewer systems have been used for so long and how they do function well when properly maintained and properly constructed. So rather than bring in a very destructive, in my mind, sewer system, let's fix these individual little problems, and then we have still that wonderful quality of life being connected to the land and the air and the water and that diversity of habitat, that diversity of wildlife that gives meaning to my little life.
Thank you, Mr. Mankey. Next, we have Jennifer Mankey.
My name is Jennifer Mankey. I live at 320 Hopkins in Clearview in Hopkins, South Carolina. I just got finished taking the Department of Agriculture's class for teachers. It was week-long, a graduate class. I still have a lot of homework to do, but I got to go tour a number of farms in a couple counties. It was marvelous to see how the farmers were really trying to take care of the land, moving actually all of them to organics, which is a great step in caring for the land, as well as moving toward people like myself who buy organic products. But the neatest thing was, every day when I drove from Harbison, where the class took place when we weren't in the field, across town and into Hopkins, how much cooler it was. Generally, it's at least 4 degrees cooler in Hopkins than it is in Columbia. I love the lush diversity of plant life in Hopkins, as well as the diversity of the new friends I've made in Hopkins that I probably would have never made as easily if this issue hadn't begun and threatened to change our lives out there. So I hope to keep the cool, green, lush, low traffic area that we have in Hopkins. It's really evident most times of year, but especially right now, to come to the cool rural area that we have there. And I pray that your issue will favor those of us who have been hanging in there through all of this, because it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Mankey. That concludes our citizens' input. Next, we have report of the county administrator, Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Pierce. Without further ado, as part of our agreement with the PDT, or Program Development Team for the Penny Program, one of the things that the PDT agreed to was to institute an internship program for some of our area students. And we have with us tonight 8 of those students, which make up the first class of the PDT internship program. And I'm going to ask if they will very briefly just to come up to the podium and state your name, which school you're from. And these are both high school and college students, by the way. And tell, if you're a college student, what your major is, if you're high school, what your interests are going forward.
Good evening, Chairman Ruff and County Council. I'm Don Trees Creech. I'm attending Sid Johnson. I'm a senior. My area of interest is civil engineering.
Good evening. My name is Dariante Millhouse Stewart. I'm a rising senior at C.A. Johnson High School, and my area of interest is accounting.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Frierson. I'm a rising senior at Spring Valley High School, and my area of interest is aerospace engineering.
Hey, my name is Charlotte Dover. I just graduated from Blythewood High School, and I'm going to USC next year to study business.
Good evening. My name is Jaleesa Fields. I'm a graduate of Eau Claire High School. I will attend Winthrop University in the fall and major in mass communications.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tatiana Thais Taylor. I am a rising senior. Well, I'm a graduating senior from Benedict College, and I'm a transportation engineering and logistics major student.
I'm Tatiana Gibbs. I am currently a student at North Carolina, rising junior at North Carolina A&T, and my major is civil engineering.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tyler Parham. I'm a rising senior at Benedict College, and I'm an accounting major.
Good. Well, congratulations on this opportunity that you have. I hope it will give you a chance to see some real-world projects, and I hope you get real good hands-on experience. I think you're in good hands with the PDT team, and I'm sure they'll take care of you. And please feel free to come back to more meetings and enjoy this process. And congratulations again.
Just be careful which meetings you come back to.
Mr. McDonald.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to all of our interns and to the PDT team for sponsoring the program. Secondly, Mr. Chairman, just a couple of quick announcements. Wanted to let you know our Development Services Department is again getting recognition, national recognition. The NACO award has been presented just recently to the Development Services Department for the redevelopment of the processes, the development processes and business services processes in the department, which, again, I know you're all familiar with. And certainly we're pleased and thrilled that NACO has now recognized the accomplishments there as well. And finally, CGov, which you've heard of before, the CGov Excellence Award. We told you a couple of months ago in a council meeting then that the Planning Department or Development Services Department had won a Teamwork Excellence Award by CGov, which is a teamwork group or organization. We've now found that this same organization has awarded the Overall Excellence Award nationally to the Planning Department. Some of the competition for that award was NASA, the U.S. Department of Labor, the City of Jacksonville, Florida, and the City of Philadelphia. So some stiff competition, and again, the Planning Department has, again, made us proud. So just wanted to let you know that and thank Ms. Hegler and all of the staff in the Planning Department for all the accomplishments that they've achieved.
So we came, you said we beat out NASA for?
NASA was one of the competitors, a division of NASA, the U.S. Department of Labor.
We just say NASA.
That's why I said NASA. I didn't say division until you drilled down. But obviously some stiff competition.
Yeah,
again,
most definitely. Well, congratulations to the Planning Department and the hard work that you continue to do in that area. So congratulations.
Great.
Mr.
And
McDonald?
that completes my report, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Next, we have the report of the Clerk of Council.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Owen.
I just have a reminder about tomorrow's Community Relations Council luncheon. It's to begin at 12 p.m. and it's at the Convention Center. If anyone wants to attend, please make sure you get with the clerk's office.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Onley. Next, we have a report of the chairman. First, we have a Planning Commission appointee absence. I did receive a letter from the Planning Commission. Chairman has notified the County Council that a planning commissioner has missed 5 out of 12 meetings and is thus automatically removed from the commission. Per the Richland County Code of Ordinance, the chairman has also requested the council waive enforcement of this provision, which is allowed under the ordinance, stating that the commissioner's absences were justifiable due to illness and injury, and that he has stated his desire to remain on the commission. I did receive a letter from the Planning Commission chairman, and he stated the issues of that planning commissioner. One was, I think it was illness with his daughter, that he had to miss a meeting or two, and then he also got in a car accident or a biking accident, and he missed a couple meetings for that. So with that being said, I would, based on those reasons, I feel that the absences were justifiable, and we would need an action to allow him to stay.
You did a motion?
Motion, if you don't.
Move we wait, was actually waiving a...
Is it waive the requirements?
Yeah. Is that the motion to waive the requirement? Or what? Give me the wording of the motion.
Yeah.
Good evening. You would be, if you should choose to, waiving the enforcement of being taken off of the commission for those absences.
So moved.
All right, that's the motion on the table. Can I guess it's been properly seconded. Mr. Malinowski.
Hey, Mr. Chair, you mentioned 3 instances out of the 5.
Well, no, I'll let you finish first.
I was just going to say, these folks, okay, if you have an accident already, it just seems odd that all these things just happen to come on a 1-day-a-month meeting, and they don't even meet every month during the 12-month cycle. So I mean, personally, I'd like to know a little bit more info on this person, because this is exactly the problem that we have said we've been having, that we are trying to remedy, is absences. The public comes and expects that their matters are heard. I realize things can come about that may be exceptions. I guess I'm not the one to ask for grace on something like this, when in 9 years I've not missed one of these meetings. You know when they're coming up. You may have to fight through it a little bit, and when you're not feeling good, you bite the bullet and you show up. So that's all. Thank you, without knowing all the details.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mr. Malinowski. I will say that with the Planning Commission and other boards that we appoint, they are voluntary, and people sign up for them. So there's a responsibility nonetheless. But you know, in my opinion, and based on what was sent to me, I just felt that they were justifiable. So.
I just vote no.
All right. Well, the motion on the table is to waive the requirements and allow the commissioner to stay on the board. And it's been properly second. Any more discussion? All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, that motion carries. Next we have, under Chairman's report, is the Innovista groundbreaking. Last week we had the groundbreaking for the Green Street project. This is the relationship between USC and the city and Richland County, and I think it was the first, you know, a good project to get kicked off with this type of relationship. So it was well attended by council members, and everybody threw some dirt around. All right, that concludes my report. Next, we'll have presentations. First will be Lower Richland Sewer Project, Bill Stangler, Congaree River Keeper. Mr. Stangler, you have 5 minutes. Up to 5 minutes. And if you'll state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Council. My name is Bill Stangler. I am your Congaree River Keeper. I live at 1830 Pendleton Street in Columbia. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this issue again. I probably won't use all my 5 minutes because I have another meeting I needed to be at 10 minutes ago.
All right.
But I run the organization, Congaree River Keeper. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that so that you know where I'm coming from on this. We're a grassroots nonprofit organization that works to protect the three rivers here in the Midlands. We've been around for about 6 years. It was created by citizens who had serious concerns about water quality on the Broad, Saluda, and Congaree rivers. I've acted as the executive director and riverkeeper for the last 3 years. A little background on what we've been doing with the Lower Richland sewer issue and water quality in Lower Richland in general. In April of 2013, my organization published our first, what we called a dirty half dozen list, a list of the worst permitted polluters in our areas. Number 3 on that list was Richland 1 School District for the ongoing violations of the Clean Water Act at 3 of their schools in Lower Richland that have on-site wastewater treatment facilities. This is what I talked about the last time I spoke to this council. I don't think I need to read off another list of violations, but that was where this started. And it began a conversation with agencies like DHEC, the Central Midlands Council of Governments, and Richland 1 School District on how to solve this problem. And there's been a long-standing policy at the region and state level to consolidate small wastewater treatment plants into larger regional facilities and regional systems. And that's exactly what was proposed by DHEC when they went through the consent order process with these Richland 1 schools. And it's exactly what the county has been working towards for years and years now, that these schools and the failing wastewater treatment plant in the nearby neighborhood would be tied in to a regional treatment system at the Eastover treatment plant that was just upgraded a few years ago. So this is in line with state policies, regional policies, and what DHEC has said is necessary to solve these ongoing violations of the Clean Water Act. I've heard a lot of other things come up, and so I'm going to address some of the issues that I've heard from different folks. Some people point to the water quality concerns that we've seen. We've seen bacteria numbers and studies from DHEC as well as the USGS describe high bacteria levels and pollutants coming from wastewater in Cedar Creek. Some people have suggested this is a result of the City of Columbia's failing wastewater infrastructure. Others have suggested that my organization hasn't done any work on that. I'll address both of these things very quickly. That same dirty half dozen list that we published in 2013 identified the City of Columbia as the #1 polluter in our area. The City of Columbia is now under a consent order, a federal consent order, to fix their broken wastewater system. They're going to spend more than $750 million over the next 10 years to do that. But there's a difference between that sewer system and this proposed sewer system. The City of Columbia has more than 1,000 miles of pipe, some of it more than 100 years old. Some of it was not maintained very well for a long time. That's not the same as building a new system and making a commitment to maintaining and operating it in the right way. At the same time, it was suggested earlier that my organization doesn't pay attention to the City of Columbia wastewater issues and instead came here just to speak on this one issue. If you look at our dirty half dozen list, if you look at our annual sewer spill reports, or you Google Congaree Riverkeeper, you'll see that's far from the truth. Another thing that I've heard a lot about, and is certainly a concern of mine and my organization's, is land use and development in Lower Richland County. And that's why my organization spent significant time when the county went through the update to the land use plan. We worked with the consultants and staff to make sure that these issues were addressed. Lower Richland is mainly designated as conservation and rural land use. So there are very strict rules about what can happen in there. I would suggest, and I think this is a great way to go with this, is if people have concerns about that, work to tighten up those designations and those land use codes to make it even more strict on the kind of development that we could see down there. But a significant portion of that area is already conservation and rural designation. But I'd like to end with this thought because I think it really simplifies this whole thing in my mind. I played a little bit of, it'll be one quick thing. At my school. Okay. You don't need to hear that.
We've got the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Ms. Wendy Brawley, Hopkins Lower Richland Citizens United.
You started yet? No, okay. My name is Wendy Brawley. I live at 217 Sagemont Drive in Hopkins, South Carolina, and I am one of the spokespersons for the Hopkins and Lower Richland Citizens United. I'm going to read from prepared remarks this evening. Travel just 11 miles south of downtown Columbia, and you'll reach the Lower Richland community made up of Hopkins, Gadsden, and Lower Richland. The gateway to Lower Richland is Hopkins, which was founded in 1836 and has a population, according to the U.S. Census, of slightly less than 3,000. Once in Lower Richland, you'll find beautiful rural countryside where residents still farm land that has been owned by their families for generations. Families in Lower Richland enjoy vast land, where family reunion picnics are often held in backyards instead of parks, and residents enjoy watching evening sunsets from their porches. When you understand the beauty and the pride we have for our rural community, it becomes easier to appreciate why we are fighting so hard to maintain our rural way of life and rejecting this Lower Richland Sewer Project. We learned about the sewer project on July the 7th at a community meeting held by our county council representative. Since that time, we have protested, marched, and held countless community meetings of our own, where 100 to 200 concerned citizens typically attend to voice their opposition of the sewer project. We've even held vigil here at county council meetings to express our dissatisfaction. At the same July meeting, county council representatives and a Richland County utility staff person told us several things. Number one, that the Lower Richland Sewer Project was a done deal and construction was scheduled to start in September 2015. Number two, sign on now, do it tonight, and you'll be one of the first of 200 property owners who will have their $4,000 tap-on fee waived by the county. But you must pay all the other connection costs, and your sewer bill will be $37.60 to start. At the same July 2014 meeting, the utility staff passed out some documents outlining this massive project. Phase 1 costing $13,289,000. Phase 2 and 3 bringing the total up to $21 million. The county's documents that were passed out, and an excerpt of them should be on the board, stated, number one, that DHEC had identified Lower Richland as a 72% septic tank failure rate, and that it posed an imminent health threat to our community. Number two, that there were several large communities being planned by developers who would build in Lower Richland, but those developments needed sewer service, and the City of Columbia did not have the capacity to provide for them. The truth is that 72% of the septic systems in Lower Richland are not failing. DHEC only tested 47 properties, as they stated in the media on numerous occasions, back in 1991, some 24 years ago. And of those 47 properties, 70% of those were deemed in need of repair. Now, that was before the water drain lines were repaired in Lower Richland. And since that time, DHEC has continued to issue building permits in Lower Richland and permits for septic tanks. Let's talk about the Congaree River. DHEC uses an annual SSO report, and SSO means sanitary sewer overflows. Riverkeeper talked about it. All overflows of 500 gallons or more, or overflows that flow into the water flow, are required to be reported to DHEC. Now, the most egregious violator of this rule was the City of Columbia. I don't have the time to present to you the 2013 facts, but let me tell you what happened in 2014's report. Nearly 2 million gallons of sewage was spilled into the lower Saluda River and the Broad River, which come together to form the Congaree. The City of Columbia had 134 spills at 85% of the total, with 1,649,062 gallons spilled. East Richland County Public Service District had 5 spills with 14,108 gallons spilled. City of Casey had 5 spills with 14,000 gallons spilled. And guess what? Richland County Utilities and Richland School District 1 had 0 spills in 2014. Now, there are some distinct advantages to having a septic system. It doesn't require power bills to operate it. It lasts 40 to 50 years. They are greener and use less harsh chemicals. Actually, none are deposited back into the environment. The wastewater is naturally disposed of in small quantities rather through large collection systems, and they work well in low-density communities like Lower Richland. And they don't require a monthly bill. Now, on the other hand, there are disadvantages to the sewer system. It's cost prohibitive. We know that. We've been before you many times talking about it. They tend to malfunction and cause large spills. We had a 5,000-gallon spill just in Lexington the other day. Power outages create more malfunctions. Heavy rains cause overflows and leakage. There are harsh chemicals that are deposited into the environment as a result of treating the wastewater through large sewer systems. And sewer systems rarely generate enough money to pay for themselves. That's why Richland County is transferring from its 15-16 budget money to subsidize the existing sewer system. Taxpayers pay more with this type of system. You all issued a survey. You said you were sending it to 1,900 individuals in Lower Richland. You only sent it to 574. Of those 574, 112 property owners responded, said that they did not want the sewer project, didn't need it. 48 said that they wanted it, but of those 48, 24 of them said they cannot afford a monthly bill. Now, you know, if there are problems with the Congaree, we suggest that you go to the source of the problem, the City of Columbia, because they're dumping millions of gallons of wastewater into that river. And, you know, the citizens in Lower Richland have not done that. There's no proof to suggest it. And we want you to know that while you all have the authority to do what you do, we gave you the power, and we still retain it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brawley.
We have copies of the report if you'd like it.
All right, thank you, Ms. Brawley. Next, we have open and close the public hearing. Item number 8A, an ordinance authorizing a ground lease between Richland County and Richland County School District 2 on behalf of the Richland County Public Library so as to allow the automatic transfer of title to the library building to Richland County School District 2 at the end of the lease term. That public hearing is open. No one signed up to speak. That public hearing is now closed. Next, we have the approval of the consent items, items 9 through 12. Chair, entertain a motion.
Move approval of the items.
The motion for approval has been properly seconded.
That's for 9 through 12, right?
9 through 12.
9 through 12.
Yep. Any discussion?
Just one, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Washington.
Want to move number 14?
It's 9 through 12.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's on the third reading.
I jumped the gun.
That's all right. Any more discussion? All in,
Pages tonight, isn't it?
I'm telling you.
all in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Third reading items. Item 13, an ordinance authorizing a ground lease between Ms. Dixon. Authorizing ground lease between Richland County and Richland County School District 2 on behalf of Richland County Public Library as to allow the automatic transfer of title to the library building to Richland County School District 2 at the end of the lease term.
Mr. Chair, move approval.
Second.
Got a motion for approval. It's been properly second. Discussion. Mr. Malinowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question I have is in the lease that was provided to me, section 11.5, dispute resolution. Why is Richland County, originally Richland County was in the formula for resolving a dispute, but they have been removed from it right now, and it's only the library's executive director and the landlord superintendent, two people that will resolve any dispute. It seems to me that the fact that the county could be liable for certain matters here, that they should be in as one of the people to be in any dispute that comes up, because we are part of this overall lease, so I don't see why we should be removed from it. So I'd like to see 11.5 make the addition of Richland County in there also.
This is third reading, Mr.
Yes, third reading.
So you want to add that?
I would,
Is that amendment?
if Mr. Livingston, I would just make that as a friendly amendment that the county be included in any dispute resolutions.
I don't have that before me. I just want to ask the attorney to respond to that language. In terms of what that means, what are you saying?
Mr. Livingston, if you recall, the last version of this document that got second reading was the version that we also discussed in the work session that some of you attended when we requested guidance on some of these provisions. This particular provision that Mr. Malinowski is talking about is one wherein the language that was initially brought forward about how disputes would be resolved between the county, the school district, and the library. There initially was a committee that would do that, but each side would be allowed to appoint somebody, but the county did not have appointment authority over that. So we went back, negotiated that provision with the folk from the library and tried to see whether or not there was any way that the county could be involved in any dispute resolution. I think it was changed at that time in one of the versions. There were 16 versions. And then I think the last version, any direct involvement of the county was then stricken out. And I think the language which was then proposed by the school district and the library was simply that the parties be notified of any dispute that occurred, as opposed to the county actually being involved in any discussion and any resolution of any dispute. But that was part of what we discussed in the work session.
As it stands today, if the library have a legal dispute, do our legal department not get involved in that?
Wait a minute, I didn't hear you.
Currently, if our library is engaged in a legal dispute, do our legal department not get involved in that?
I think that would depend on what the legal dispute is. I don't know that every legal dispute that the library has necessarily our office would necessarily know about it.
And
we would only know about it if they notified us about it.
As a point of clarification, I thought you said that if there was a dispute, the county would have to be notified.
I did. That's the current language.
Okay, so you would be notified.
Right.
And if it was an issue that went beyond what was in the purview of the district and the library, then that would be a county issue, so we would have to be involved.
Yeah, in regard to Mr. Manning's comments, there is a provision in reference to Mr. Malinowski's comments. The last part of 11.5 indicates that notwithstanding anything to the contrary, in the event the dispute affects the county's direct right to use and occupy the premises, the chairperson of Richland County Council shall replace the executive director. So in that sense, as Mr. Manning was indicating.
The whole thing.
I did.
Just kidding.
It still doesn't say that we're involved in the settlement.
So that was sort of the language that was brought back by the school district and the and the library for consideration of the county.
Thank you for clarification. Mr. Livingston, you still have the floor.
Yeah, Mr. Malinowski, with that said, that's what I was assuming too, since I did not have the language with me, that it's very clear that based on that, I think the county would be covered in the dispute.
Mr. Malinowski.
Then I don't understand why on the opening sentence of this dispute resolution, the county was removed from being involved, and it says that the landlord superintendent, which is the school superintendent of that district, and the library's executive director shall engage in all good faith efforts to resolve such a dispute. It does not include the county.
Does that include notification? The county would be notified?
We may be notified, but you could be notified your wife got a traffic ticket, but you can't do anything about it.
But we can do something about it if we're notified.
I don't know. Can we, Mr. Smith, do something about it once notified? We're not part of the arbitration system according to this.
If, in fact, whatever the dispute is would affect the county's direct right to use and occupy the premises, then we get directly engaged in the process. And then you have the Richland County Chair who replaces the executive director in the process, as I previously stated.
Let me respond. Mr. Malinowski, see, my big concern is I don't think we ought to be getting involved in disputes when it become operational matters and so forth. My main concern is when it comes to the property, the land that we're invested in primarily. So that was my main concern. That's why. Okay.
And I support this, Mr. Livingston. I just don't want to see the county wind up being involved in some legal fray that we don't need to be in. That's all.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Malinowski, you still got the floor.
I would just make a secondary motion, Mr. Chair, that the county's name be put back in here so that any dispute comes about, we know that we will be notified and be a party of in trying to resolve it.
All right.
Second.
That's a secondary motion. Well, that's a substitute motion. I've got you down, Mr. Livingston. That's a substitute motion. It's been properly second. Mr. Pierce.
Mr. Smith, what is your position with Richland County?
I'm the Richland County Attorney.
And you're a licensed attorney, that's correct?
Yes, sir.
And you've negotiated how many versions of this lease? I believe you said 16?
Yes, sir.
And it's your opinion that this lease, as it stands, is appropriate and covers all protections in any legal matters related to Richland County, is that correct?
The document is legal. It's a legal document. It's not a problem. In terms of this particular provision, I think it's a policy decision of council in terms of how much you want to be involved in a dispute process.
But it was your opinion as the county attorney that the document as you sent it to us was an adequate document that covered all of the legal provisions?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mr. Livingston.
I just want to say, again, my main concern is, just like we have legal issues with our Recreation Commission, with
attorneys here.
Well, it's different agencies in the county. I don't want to get into disputes. Again, what's going to happen is we're going to get into disputes about operations. That's the business of the library and library board and library director. This allows us not to have to worry about getting into those kind of disputes.
All right, thank you, Mr. Livingston. All right, there's a motion on the floor, well, there's a substitute motion to add the language that Richland County be a part of the process. Is that correct, Mr. Malinowski?
Correct.
All right. All in favor of that substitute motion signify by raising your hand.
In favor, Dixon, Malinowski, Jackson, Rush.
All opposed?
Opposed, Rose, Pierce, Livingston, Washington, Manning, Jeter.
That motion fails. Back to the original motion is for approval. Is for approval of this item. Any more discussion? All in favor of that motion signify by raising your hand.
In favor, Rose, Pierce, Rush, Livingston, Washington, Manning, Jeter.
All opposed?
Opposed, Dixon, Malinowski.
That motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I move for reconsideration.
Second.
For reconsideration, it's been properly second. Discussion. All in favor of reconsideration signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
That motion fails. Item 14, 15-23MA, JR Lex 2 LLC, RU to RC, 2.61 acres.
Okay, I'll get yours.
Got a motion for approval.
Second.
It's been properly second. Discussion. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
All right, we've got one. All right. All in favor of that motion signify by raising your hand.
This is 14.
14, item 14.
In favor, Dixon, Malinowski, Rose, Pierce, Rush, Livingston, Jeter.
All opposed?
Opposed, Jackson, Washington, Manning.
All right. Next, we have a report of the Rules and Appointment Committee, Mr. Malinowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 15A and B, notification of vacancies. The East Richland Public Service Commission has 2 vacancies, and the Accommodation Tax Committee 1 vacancy, and the applicant must have a background in the cultural industry. The committee recommends to advertise for those 3 vacancies.
All right, that's the motion on the table. Any discussion? All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Malinowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 16. I'm not going to, you want me to read that whole thing? I can.
You don't have to. You
Okay,
can
thank you.
summarize it.
Summary is to consider appointing council members as ex officio members to public bodies when Richland County has appointed their boards, commissions, or committees. And that one is going to stay in committee, and our legal department is going to contact the South Carolina Association of Counties in an effort to find out if it is legal for the county to appoint ex officio members to these boards, committees, and commissions, as well as to define the role, definition of what a liaison person is, and bring those back to committee, at which point the committee will come forward with a recommendation.
All right.
We did that in 2006.
Yes.
Okay. That concludes your report, Mr. Malinowski?
That concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
All right. Other items. A resolution to appoint and commission Zachary Kavanaugh as code enforcement officer for the proper security, general welfare, and convenience of Richland County.
Move to approve.
Got a
Second.
motion for approval. It's been properly second. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item 18, report of the Sewer Ad Hoc Committee. Mr. Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As a carryover from the last council meeting, the ordinances are enclosed, and all changes were made to the ordinance. Any discussion from staff?
Mr. Chairman and Mr. Washington, nothing unless you have questions. We'd be happy to explain or give you a brief summary of what the change is and what it does, but only if you would like that.
All right. The committee's recommendation was for approval.
Yes.
Okay, you heard the committee's recommendation. Any discussion? Mr. Malinowski.
Yes, Mr. Chair. While I realize that Richland County can only do so much in this matter because we, like everyone else, are bound by the DHEC regulations and rules. The one thing that was not in the ordinance, and maybe it somewhere is in the DHEC rules, and that's, as was mentioned tonight by at least one speaker, and then what is the definition of new construction? That may be, or is that no longer an issue with this?
Mr. Malinowski, I believe with the new language that you have before you on page 54, the new construction language is no longer of relevance because that language was stricken altogether.
Okay, this particular ordinance says that people do not have to hook up to a public sewer system if they follow these DHEC rules of if it can be repaired, if they've got room on their property to put another system in or move it. All that is what is in front of us, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
And I'll.
That's fine. That's all I need. I'm good.
All right.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Chair.
Mr. Malinowski.
Let's clarify the changes, because I think that's important. If you will, please go ahead and clarify those points.
Mr. Washington and members of council, under the proposed language in the draft amendment, basically it indicates that DHEC is the primary agency responsible for the septic systems, and therefore the county is amending the ordinance such that we basically put everything back under DHEC's authority. Okay. As far as new construction goes, that is eliminated from the language in the proposed ordinance as well. And everything would go back to the DHEC requirements should somebody want to apply for a new septic system or whether they repair an existing septic system. That would all fall back under the DHEC regulations rather than the county ordinance.
Thank you.
All right, the motion on the table is
Committee's
for
recommendation was for approval.
committee recommendations for approval. Any more discussion? All in favor of that recommendation signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries.
And 18, well, A1 covered that issue. Again, it falls back to DHEC. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
That
That's a part of it.
Mr. Chairman, did you want to reconsider that motion?
I got a motion for reconsideration. It's been properly second. Discussion. All in favor of reconsideration, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion fails.
Thank you.
Citizens' input must pertain to items not on the agenda. We've got two citizens signed up to speak, Ms. Helen Bradley and Lottie Wesley.
Helen Taylor Bradley, 1916 Martin Luther King Boulevard, Hopkins, South Carolina. I want to make some observations. First, I'd like to comment on the recorded voting. I noticed tonight there was some show of hands, but then there was some nays, and I guess abstaining because some people don't vote. I think it's very important that any elected official be required to vote some kind of way, or at least if you're not going to vote, it should be a reason why you're not voting, and your constituents have the right to know that. Also, I noticed the order of the agenda. Some items are listed for third reading. You have, they are combined together. Items number 9 through 11 said they were third reading. Then it jumps down to item number 18 for third reading. Is this by design? Is this to confuse us or whatever? It is very confusing. As well as, and my last observation is the comment about the new construction. It says it right on the fly, on your overhead screen. New construction is in that work that you just voted on.
That's changed. Okay, thank you, Ms. Bradley. Ms. Wesley.
Sorry. P. Wesley, 164 Sumter Loop Road, Hopkins, South Carolina, 29061. Just to recap a little bit. The Franklin Park, the Cabin Creek, the Aberdeen Park, the Hopkins Elementary, the Hopkins Middle, and the Gasson Elementary. Remember what I told you? If something's done and it's not done correct, sometimes it comes back to haunt you. It's coming back to haunt us from prior council members. These are the type things that they put together, let little private groups come in, give the people a little pool for a water tank, and I turn my water on, your shower goes off. So when you do those type things and you don't fix it right from the beginning, you end up with a problem. And I want to commend the Little River Zoo man that lives in Columbia, which has no clue of the rural county living, but I like to learn from other people's mistakes sometimes. If I see somebody over here that's got a problem and they made all mess of it, I try to do good from it and make my mess better because I don't want to be like them. So I'm trying to tell you, when you see City of Columbia got all these issues, we would have those same type issues too. Comment again, the Little River Zoo man said over 100 years the City of Columbia didn't upkeep and didn't do whatever. So the same type problem we're gonna have if this comes through in about 50 years, or maybe sooner than that, because you know when it breaks, it don't get to be a little leak. You get to be a big old pour. I'd rather have a little leak than have that big pour. Congaree River just got a lot of stuff dumped in, 500,000 gallons from the Lexington area. That went right on down the river. Eastover got their little setup. Guess where that goes? To the Watery River. Guess where that goes? To the main flows of everything. Now that little Cedar Creek problem y'all talking about, that's no kind of big deal as far as what you're saying, but that's not our problem.
All right, thank you, Ms. Wesley. That concludes citizens' input. Next, we have executive session. There's no items for executive session.
No, sir.
Motion.
Don't go into executive session.
Motion period.
No, we got a motion.
No, that's not. No, I ruled that out of order. We don't have to do that. No, I got some motion period. Mr. Jackson, did you just want to do a proclamation for that, or you want to do a resolution?
Proclamation, just make it official. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Do we don't need to take a vote?
Nope. Yeah, well, we can
With a
Okay.
we can do the resolution.
You want a resolution? We need to vote on it.
Okay, so
Motion for unanimous consent.
Okay,
Second.
all right, got a motion for unanimous consent. It's been properly second. Any discussion? All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item 20B, that will go to DNS. Yeah, you can do it through DNS. Yeah. All right. Chair, entertain a motion for adjournment.
Mr. Chair.
Got a motion for adjournment. It's been properly second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Judging that, I mean.